Today is Friday, May 24th. What you need to know this Memorial Day weekend, from the events to the weather to the travel forecast. Also, how a U.S. Supreme Court decision could impact future voting maps around the country. Plus, new legal action may change how you buy tickets to concerts and sporting events. A new era looks to be coming for college athletes. And which city is getting a new sports franchise? Those stories and even more news to know today coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. A decision from the U.S. Supreme Court is expected to make it much tougher for voters to challenge racial gerrymandering. Justices weighed in on a congressional map out of South Carolina. A lower court had ruled the map illegal because when state Republicans redrew a congressional district, they moved more than 60% of Black voters out of it. The lower court considered that racial gerrymandering, meaning it was meant to give Black voters less political power. Well, in a 6-3 decision, the highest court reversed the lower court's ruling. And now this case is expected to have influence far beyond South Carolina. When Justice Alito wrote the majority opinion, he said courts should generally assume lawmakers are telling the truth when they say their goal in redistricting is partisan, which is legal, and not racial, which is illegal. The thing is, that can be a tough distinction because Black voters overwhelmingly tend to favor Democrats. So the liberal justices argued it could become all but impossible to challenge voting maps as being discriminatory in the future. So as a reminder, legislative districts around the country are redrawn to reflect population changes once a decade in most states. And when that happens, the redistricting is done by the party in power. And in this case, it was South Carolina Republicans who took control over Democrats during the midterms. And now that their map is allowed, the GOP is expected to keep the majority after the general election. And note, there are also legal battles in other states over redistricting still going on. So stay tuned. Louisiana is becoming the first state to make it a crime to have abortion pills without a prescription. State lawmakers passed a bill this week that adds mifepristone and misoprostol to the list of controlled substances that includes highly addictive narcotics. And that means people who are caught with the pills and no prescription could face jail time. The measure now goes to Governor Jeff Landry, who's expected to sign it. Medication and surgical abortions are already banned in Louisiana, except to save a patient's life. So the change doesn't really impact abortion access in the state. But mifepristone and misoprostol have other uses, like management of miscarriages and to address postpartum hemorrhage. So critics of the bill say it could create dangerous delays in emergency situations. On the other side, supporters say they're not against medical uses of the drugs, but that adding them to the controlled substance list protects pregnant women from being given the drugs without their knowledge. Either way, this is expected to open the door to other Republican-led states to adopt similar laws. There was another tense hearing on Capitol Hill over how university leaders have handled recent protests on their campuses. The heads of Northwestern University, Rutgers University, and UCLA testified before lawmakers yesterday about the protests over the Gaza war. Lawmakers criticized all three leaders for not taking stronger disciplinary action in suspending or expelling students. To that, the leaders all said they were committed to due process and that they followed their university guidelines. During the hearing, hundreds of protesters set up a new encampment and occupied a building at UCLA. Police officers in riot gear moved in to break it all up, but things were relatively calm, and the university says it was not aware of police making any arrests this time. On the opposite end of the country, hundreds of people who attended a graduation ceremony at Harvard staged a walkout. It came just one day after the school said 13 Harvard students who participated in protest encampments would not be getting their diplomas alongside their classmates. So some protesters yesterday were chanting, "Let them walk," as well as "Free Palestine." At the same time, a plane circled above with a U.S. and Israeli flag trailing behind it. This weekend, Americans will be remembering the men and women who died while serving in the U.S. military and honoring their sacrifice. The VA site lists hundreds of Memorial Day events around the country this weekend, and there's an official moment of remembrance at 3 p.m. local time on Monday. Of course, today also marks the unofficial start to the summer travel season. And with that, highways and airports are expected to be packed. AAA actually thinks this will be the busiest start of summer weekend in nearly 20 years. And INRIX, which offers transportation data and insights, says travel times are expected to be up to 90% longer than normal. And that's especially true in places where there's also the threat for bad weather. This weekend is bringing threats of large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes from Texas to the Northeast. So if you're spending the weekend across those states, it might be time to look into some indoor activities, perhaps shopping the Memorial Day sales. Elsewhere, weather is expected to be good for beachgoers in the southeast and campers out west. We have much more news for you still coming up, but first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, Trade Coffee. Trade Coffee is changing the way you experience coffee at home. They continuously curate a wide variety of coffees from the best small batch specialty roasters in the U.S., then make personalized recommendations based on what you like or may like to try, and every bag is roasted to order and shipped fresh to you by one of their 50-plus partners. From dark roasts to decafs, espressos to cold brew and iced coffee, you can discover the best coffee suited to your taste. And with graduations, Father's Day, and summer birthdays coming up, it's not too early to begin thinking of the perfect gift, and you can't go wrong with better coffee. I personally love that I get to try some different types of coffee and feel confident that they're all so high quality, and they really do taste so great. I look forward to my morning pick-me-up more than ever before. So give Trade a try for a month and see how you can make better coffee at home. Right now, they're offering 30% off your first month of coffee when you visit drinktrade.com/newsworthy. That's drinktrade.com/newsworthy for 30% off a month of coffee. drinktrade.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to the news. In Florida, it's about to be what Governor Ron DeSantis is calling Freedom Summer. And with that, the Florida Transportation Department has told cities if they want to light up their bridges at night, they can only use the colors red, white, and blue. That's the new policy from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And it means a lot of colorful light displays that were being planned for other summer holidays or awareness events are being canceled. So, for example, many bridges around the state typically display rainbow colors in honor of LGBTQ Pride Month in June. Others glow orange for National Gun Awareness Month in June, and red, black, and green for Juneteenth. Then at the end of August, some are lighted up orange for Women's Equality Day. And that's just to name a few examples. Certain advocacy groups have said they're disappointed, but they say they'll still be celebrating all around their communities and flying their flags high, just not on the bridges. It's a legal battle that's been in the making for more than a decade now. The Justice Department and more than 24 states have sued Live Nation, the concert giant that owns Ticketmaster. They say Live Nation illegally holds a monopoly in the live entertainment industry, and they're asking a court to break it up. Live Nation controls about 80% of primary ticketing at major concert venues, plus about 60% of concert promotions. Because of that, the DOJ says fans pay more in fees, artists have fewer opportunities to play concerts, smaller promoters get squeezed out, and more. So this lawsuit asks the court to break the company up. But Live Nation is fighting the suit. Company reps say they're not the reason ticket prices are so high. They instead blame high production costs and 24/7 online ticket scalping that shows people are willing to pay far more than face value. And just bottom line, they say the DOJ's lawsuit won't solve the actual issues. Of course, the DOJ announcing the lawsuit is just the first step in what's expected to be a long court process that could take years. So fans should not expect major changes anytime soon. It's now been more than a year since a train carrying toxic chemicals derailed on the outskirts of East Palestine, Ohio. And now the railway company behind it all reached a settlement with the federal government worth $310 million. If it's approved in court, most of the money will cover past and future cleanup costs for the contaminated air, water, and soil around the crash site. It will also pay for long-term water monitoring, a community health program, and more. And all that is on top of a separate $600 million class action settlement it reached earlier this year with people who live in East Palestine. Plus, Norfolk Southern promised to make rail safety improvements that could cost more than $200 million. So overall, the costs now top $1 billion. You'll remember, no one was hurt in the immediate derailment, but people nearby have worried about potential long-term health effects since the crash and a fire afterward released toxic chemicals. Meanwhile, the National Transportation Safety Board has been investigating. For the first time in the history of college sports, there's a new agreement for schools to start paying athletes directly. The NCAA and every Power 5 conference agreed to a settlement that says athletes will start getting a cut of money their schools make from broadcast rights deals, ticket sales, sponsorships, and more. This all stems from a lawsuit more than 14,000 current and former athletes filed, saying it's not fair. They didn't make any money off their names, images, and likeness. Well, now the settlement says those who sued will be getting paid. And there's a new revenue sharing model being set up for the future that lets each school share up to $20 million a year with its athletes, or even more if revenues rise. It says athletes in all sports would be eligible, and schools will get to decide how the money is divvied up among sports programs. Should the settlement go through, that model will likely begin at the start of the 2025 to 26 academic year, making that the beginning of a new era in college sports where schools can compete for talent using direct payments. But first, a judge does have to sign off. The WNBA has decided to expand outside of the U.S. The league announced a new team based in Toronto, Canada, that will take the court in the 2026 season. Now it's just looking for a name and asking for public input. This comes as pro women's basketball has seen a surge in popularity, and expansion plans don't end here. The WNBA is expected to go from 12 teams to 16 by the year 2028. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, this episode is brought to you by Boll & Branch. If you're looking to refresh your home for spring and summer, the best way may not actually be just new decor. That stuff does not compare to the difference soft, breathable, all-new bedding can make. Because loving the place you sleep and actually getting good sleep are some of the best things you can do for yourself. My husband and I have tried our fair share of sheets, and when we moved homes, we both agreed Boll & Branch's signature sheets are our favorite. So much so that we decided to buy a second set in a different color. We also chose to get our new duvet set from Boll & Branch because we know how high quality and comfortable their bedding is. And sure enough, it's cloud-like. Plus, Boll & Branch's signature sheets are made with the finest 100% organic cotton and are completely free from toxins. Sleep better with the softest, most breathable bedding from Boll & Branch. Get 15% off your order when you use the promo code NEWSWORTHY at bollandbranch.com. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com with the promo code NEWSWORTHY. Exclusions apply, so see site for details. Okay, now back to Feel Good Friday. An unofficial campus mascot has gotten a big promotion from tour guide to honorary doctorate. Max the cat has become a fixture on the campus of Vermont State University, Castleton. He lives in a house with his human family on the street that leads to the main entrance of campus. And for the last 4 years, he's been venturing over to the campus and hanging out with college students. They pick Max up, take selfies with him, give him rides in their backpacks, and more. He even likes to go on tours with prospective students that meet at a building across from the family's house. Students say he puts them at ease. So this year, the school decided to give him an honorary doctorate degree for adorable service to the academic community. The school says the honor entitles Max to catnip perks, scratching post privileges, and litter box responsibilities. Max popped up for plenty of graduation photos, and his official diploma is supposed to be delivered soon. All right, we'll be back tomorrow with our special edition Saturday episode. A money expert shares how even she fell for an imposter scam that stole half her net worth and how you can avoid making the same mistake. Then we'll be off for the Memorial Day holiday on Monday, but we'll be back on Tuesday with a new episode giving you all the news you need to start the work week. For now, thank you so much for listening and have a great long weekend.